The iMusic app has so far been using a canned set of data that I built. This is great for testing purposes, but it's unlikely that users would find much value in the app if they couldn't add their own albums. In this lesson, we'll begin prototyping the search UI that will allow users to search for artists and albums and then add those albums to their list. To spare you the pain of watching me type and build our search-related view controllers, I prepared these in advance and we can simply add them to our project. I have this folder called Search UI on my desktop containing a couple view controllers and an image file. You'll find a copy of this in your working files directory for this chapter's lessons. So select the view controllers and drag and drop those into my controllers group. I want to say copy items into destination folder, create groups for any added folders, and definitely make sure that both of my targets are checked. Select finish. And let me just kind of drag these down to the bottom of the list. And I will also drag this JPEG file called trivium.jpg into my images group. Select finish. Alright, so I'll walk you through these controllers as we go, but they're very similar to what we've already done in the music list view controller. Let's go back to our storyboard file. And I'll begin by creating a new scene based on a table view controller. So let me add this into here. Let me set its class type right away to Search Artist View Controller. Now I'm going to want the Search UI to be presented in a navigation controller, so we can navigate through the results as we go. With the scene selected, I'll go up to the Editor menu and select Embed in Navigation Controller. This dropped a new navigation controller onto our storyboard and set our Search Artist View Controller as its root view. Let's drill in on the navigation controller and look at its attributes. And I do want to select Shows Toolbar. Now on our music list scene, let's add a bar button item to it. So I'll search for bar button. And in the right-hand corner of the navigation bar, I want to drop this bar button item on there. And I will give it an identifier of search. So let's change it to a magnifying glass. Zoom out a little bit. And I'll highlight the search bar button item and control drag from there to our navigation controller. We want this to be presented modally, so I'll select modal. So this set up a new segue. Slide this over a little bit. Now let's select that segue and give it an identifier. I'll call this Search Artists. Alright, and let's go look at our table view controller. So we'll zoom in on that so we can edit its contents. Now for its top bar, I'm going to turn this to none. And instead I want to replace that with a search bar. So I'll search for search bar. And I'll drag this component on the top, right above the cell. Alright, so that added a search bar to our UI. I'll give this the placeholder text of enter an artist name. I'll check the Shows Cancel button. And for some of its keyboard behavior, I want the capitalization to be set to none, and the correction I'll set to no as well. We need to set up a couple of connections for the search bar component. So while this is still selected, I'll control drag from it down to this icon in the dock. And this icon down here is our Search Artist View Controller. And I will set that as the delegate. A UI search bar, just like a UI table view, has got a delegate property. Our Search Artist View Controller adopts the UI search bar delegate protocol, so it can become the delegate for this search bar. I'll also draw a connection from this dock icon up to the search bar to set the outlet property. I'll set that to the search bar property. Let me adjust the table view cell. So currently it's set to custom. I'm going to set this to basic. And I'll add the title text trivium, just so we can identify this in the storyboard. And I will set its reuse identifier to artist cell. One last thing we want to add to our scene is we want to add another bar button item. But this time we'll add it to the footer, and we'll call this close. If the user decides to bail out of the search operation, they can tap the close button to dismiss this UI. Now I'd really like this to be right aligned, and I can do that easily by selecting this flexible space bar button item and dropping this to the left of it. This will push this over to the right. Let's highlight that button and control drag to the dock icon and select close dialog. Just compile this. Oh, let me quickly fix that. So let's take a look at our search artist view controller. So we have our UI search bar property that we hooked up, and we hooked up our close button to the close dialog method. We look at the actual implementation. This is pretty similar to what we had with the music list view controller. In a class extension, I defined an NS mutable array to contain our artists. Synthesizing our properties. In view.did_load, I'm setting this to an empty list. I don't technically have to do that. Now I am overriding the view will appear method, and I'm doing that so that I can hide the navigation bar whenever this is shown on screen. I wouldn't want to have my search bar and then a navigation bar on top of it. Close dialog just dismisses the dialog window. The search bar cancel button clicked and search bar search button clicked are two delegate protocol methods that I'm implementing. When the user clicks the cancel button, I want to clear out their current text. And on the search bar component, I want to call resign first responder. Now the first responder is the thing that's currently receiving keyboard input. But if I clear out the search term, I want to dismiss that first responder status, and this will have the net effect of dismissing the keyboard. Same kind of thing with the search bar search button clicked. I want to first resign my first responder status. I'm then just creating a sample artist. Calling reload data on the table view will ensure that our table view data source methods get re-invoked and will take into account the new state of our artist array. Now the implementation of the table view data source methods themselves are exactly as we've seen previously. The last thing I have in here is a prepare for segue. This is very similar to what we had in the music list view controller. We'll come back to this when we finish our remaining UI. Let's quickly run the app. Select View List. Click the search icon. So this brings up our UI. Let's enter in some random text. And tap Search. And there's our result from our list. Try out the Close button, and that's hooked up as well. In this lesson, we began prototyping our search UI. We added a new scene, added a segue from our music list to the new scene, and saw how to add and use a UI search bar component. In the next lesson, we'll build the remainder of our search UI.